What makes young people crave the rave?
I'm curious what makes you so curious.
In the beginning was the beat.
Welcome to the Rave Curious Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Glazer. What are we curious about? We're curious about electronic music and the culture that surrounds it. And how do we want to satisfy that curiosity? By talking to some of the people who have dedicated their lives to the electronic music scene, DJs, producers, promoters, and more. This week on Rave Curious, I got to speak to one of my all-time heroes, DJ Danny Tenaglia. Danny has been a DJ since the days of the Paradise Garage, basically as far back in New York club culture as one can possibly be. He was a superstar throughout the 90s and most of the 2000s, and he's still a superstar today. I first saw Danny in 2001, and it was honestly one of the nights that completely changed my life, and here's how. A lot of people, they get into electronic music for a few years, they party, they go to raves, they take drugs, and I hit the box and make a noise. God damn it. My guest today on the Rave Curious Podcast is one of my personal heroes, a lot of people's personal hero, is DJ Danny Tenaglia. Danny has been a DJ since the days of the Paradise Garage in New York, which is about as far back a DJ as you can possibly go. He was a superstar in the 90s, in the early 2000s, and he's still a superstar today. I first saw Danny in 2001 at the final night of Industry in Toronto, one of the most legendary clubs from that era. It's a great story about that night. A lot of people, when we start raving, we get really into it. And people dive right in, the parties, the music, the drugs, the scene, the everything. And it can really consume a person like it did me in the mid-1990s when I first discovered techno as a young man coming of age in Detroit. But that story follows people along everywhere, and it certainly follows millions of kids today are on that path. But something happens usually after 2 or 3 years of really dedicating your life to electronic music and really dedicating your life to everything. A lot of people, they burn out, not just on the drugs and the partying, but they burn out on the music. They can burn out on the culture. A lot of people, especially at that young age, are, they're apt to go into something, do it, take what they can get out of it, and then move on to the next thing. I started raving in 1995, and by the time I saw Danny in 2001, I was probably at that point. I was in Detroit. I was running a nightclub that had basically all the biggest DJs in the world. I was completely immersed in electronic music, and I was completely sick of it. I didn't really know what to do. I didn't even know that I had to do something. But then somebody took me to Toronto to see Danny play. I had heard of the name. I never really thought too much of him. At the time, he had the Global Underground mix CDs out, which kind of made me classify him as a UK trance progressive DJ, not something my snobby Detroit techno listening self was going to be into. But the people who invited me, Kenny Glasgow, who's one of the residents of Industry, now a member of art department, I trusted Kenny, and he said, come to Toronto for this party. I came to Toronto for the party, drove about 4.5 hours from Detroit to Toronto, got to the club around 3 a.m. Danny went on at 5 a.m, which is something I had never heard of. There was, back in the 90s, nobody played sets like Danny, 12-hour sets, 16-hour sets. Nobody went on at 5 a.m. Clubs in Detroit closed at 2, and if we were lucky, there might be an underground party that went till 4 or 5. So the idea of a DJ going on at 5 a.m. was unbelievable. And that night, I stayed about 10 hours. I stayed till about 3 p.m. on what was a Monday afternoon when we had to check out of the hotel and drive back to Detroit. But during those 10 hours, Danny completely renewed my faith, my love, my passion for electronic music. And he's probably the reason why I'm still here talking about this 14 years after the fact. We actually talk about that night. I got to ask him something that I've been wanting to ask him about that night. for 14 years. So that alone was worth it for me, but we talk about a lot of other stuff that I hope will make it worth it for everyone. If you do think it's worth it, you can follow us, Facebook and Twitter, Rave Curious Podcast. And here we go. My conversation with Danny Tenaglia on the Rave Curious Podcast. Sitting here with Danny Tenaglia.
Hello.
In his hotel in beautiful Hollywood. It's an awesome room.
Yeah, I kind of hope you're going to be capturing this on a video. I thought it was a video interview. That's why when I came down, I said, the room is amazing, because I was looking for a spot down there.
We could take some, do some photos, do some Instagramming, get your, work your social media game a little.
Oh, he's been helping me with that.
Is that?
He's good with that.
So how a lot of DJs are really, really into that. Is it something that you are interested in personally, or is it something that you kind of like?
No, not necessarily the apps related to the mobile, Instagram, Twitter. I've been on Facebook for a while now, but that initial love affair fizzled down after about 2 years. Mm-hmm. But I still keep up with it because of the amount of people that are on there to, as friends, fans, whatever you call it. And it's a great place for me to promote. But a lot of friends, and Guillermo works with me now, he's been like, oh, you got to do the Instagram, you got this and that. And I'm like, I don't really want to. Like, I'm not looking to put myself out there that much, but I get it. And I do understand it's the nature of promotion. So if I am going to still stay in the game, then I got to do what it takes to, promote.
Sure. And I remember like when at one point on Facebook you would write these some really long, elaborate posts. I think they were a couple times they maybe got away from you a little bit.
Yeah, I get really passionate, and I'm Carrie Mason. Mm-hmm. She's always she's been a journalist for Billboard and DJ Times, and she used to love reading my posts when they would go on for a while, because it was really important to me that people understood what I was saying, because I know that there's a lot of people that misread it because maybe they're not American, or it might be their second language. And I learned through how rumors start, it was like, oh, that got lost in translation. So I learned to be really clear.
Like which rumor?
Oh, well, the most famous one had to be when I went through a frustrating period, and I said I was resigning but not retiring.
Right.
And I thought I muted that, sorry. I said that I had, what I didn't tell the people is that I'm open about it now, is I had lost my laptop on an airplane. And I just lost it inside. It was a fragile time in my life. It was 2011 that happened. And I was just kind of getting over the grieving of the loss of my mom and her sisters. And it all happened the same week. And I was turning 50, and, I was having lack of communications with Kevin, and live in New York, Miami. So when that happened to me, I got back to my place in Miami. I realized the computer wasn't in the bag. I ran to the airport, and it was closed now. I waited there for 6 hours. Long story short, on that part, it never showed up. So a couple of days later, I just couldn't hold it in. It was like, I need a break. I've been traveling so long doing the touring, not coming up for air, so much jet lag, readjusting, and I'm like, where is this all going for me? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I did have no plans of ever stopping, resigning, retiring, but I guess what I wasn't clear about was I was trying to make a form of a statement that I want to resign from my company, Detour Inc., because it was pretty much going on 20 years, and I just wanted to change. And I felt that that was going to be one way of being understood. And I could go on and on about that.
And as these things happen, it just...
Right, it got lost in translation because people, well, I guess there was just tons of people that didn't even read it. It just became, you heard Danny's retiring?
Yeah.
So because that word retiring was there, and I did say it 3 times that long post, resigning, not retiring.
Right, but nobody knows what the nuance
exactly.
is.
So I've been really, really careful since that post to sleep on it, whatever I might say, type it out, get it all out of my system, but don't hit send.
Yeah, and it seems like the whole lost laptop thing, like
man.
that's. I mean, it's funny because I know the DJs who like it's for some of them it's like the biggest thing ever, and then I know DJs who they know they're gonna lose 3 laptops a year. Like it's just like part of the. I don't want to necessarily name a name, but it's. I mean, but you hear stories about. I mean, I guess there's so much passion on there, and
I'm really. I mean, I guess just by knowing that I'm an old school DJ, I don't really like giving my stuff away. I was never really good at even making tapes, like meaning back in the day, 8-tracks, cassettes, not even for family members. I was like, no, I was just too private about my music. And so even until this day, I mean, I'm about to start changing, but you could see that even I don't even have a SoundCloud page. I have one, but there's only a few mixes up.
Oh yeah, that used to frustrate me and everyone to no end. It was like there's no Danny mixes anywhere. And even like at the beginning of like in 2000 2001 was like Napster and all that. It was like you could get all of a sudden you had to get mixes from people. You found out there was stuff actually out there. There was nothing of yours. It was driving me nuts.
I don't know. I think I have a fear of criticism, fear of rejection kind of thing, and I'm just like, no, that they ain't gonna like that mix or just mental shit. But he and I have been going through. He's been pushing me to do it, and we listened to recordings I did at Berkane and Panorama Bar, and maybe one of the ones you were there. And I'm gonna edit it down a little bit because they're quite long.
Yeah, they were probably 4 hour each. It was like a 4 hour set, then you got to sleep for 8 hours or whatever, and then another 4 hour set.
Similar, about 4 hours each. And I know back then I was kind of excited at the thoughts. I was really happy with the way it came out, but they kind of didn't like the idea of me putting it out or not so soon. So I respected that, and I never gave it away.
Right.
But
okay.
It's been a few years now, and
this is from the first time you played Berghain, where you did
right.
Because then you played there. Because I was there the first time you played.
Right. That was better for me.
Right, and then the second time because you did a snacks party.
Yeah.
And then did Panorama Bar later or whatever. The same deal though, wasn't it? It was like a split set, right?
Yeah. Yeah. One was Friday, one was Saturday.
Because you used to play 16-hour sets.
Oh, I still do. I mean, I just played Saturday night in Montreal for 13 hours.
That is it still stereo?
Yeah, it's my second.
That's
home.
your spot, right?
Yeah, and I love it. But it's not many places in the world that I would play, or even get to play longer than 6-7 hours. So if I get to play 8, 9, 10, it's rare. Stereo as a whole, and I should say Canada in general, because I played at Nest in Toronto, which was formerly Rise. And Gavin, I don't know if you know Gavin. First time I played there, it was like 14 hours. So I'm jealous of Canada.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. The first time I ever saw you play was in Toronto at the closing night of Industry.
Oh my God, it was so long ago.
I know, and it was so good. And I still it's funny. Like I still have friends who I met that night, like on the dance floor.
Yeah.
And it was okay. So I want you to dispel a rumor that I've been spreading.
Okay.
since that night, because I remember it a certain way, and it's probably not what actually happened, but it was right around the time I think you hadn't put out the Green Velvet remix yet, the Flash remix, but you played it. Now, it was definitely the first time I heard it, and this would have been 2000, 2001. I meant to Google it before.
You know what? I'm not relating Flash to that. I'm thinking that I know I started Industry years before, but what year did it close?
Either 2000 or 2001. I'm thinking 2001.
All right,
But
then that was around the time I did Flash.
Yeah.
I don't recall that.
The story I've been telling people, and again, my memory is probably
Yeah.
very twisted about the whole thing, is I'm like, he played 30 minutes of custom Green Velvet remixes.
Could be.
I don't know what the hell it was, but he played
Yeah.
30 minutes of these amazing remixes I've never heard, and then like 6 hours later, he played the
again.
original.
Oh, yeah.
and I had never had any sense of like any of that. I had never seen a DJ play a set anywhere near that long. You know, I mean, this was coming out of the '90s, and even in Detroit, you know, like maybe a DJ would play for 3 hours or 4 hours. Maybe be lucky if the party made it till 6 a.m. So that was really the first time I experienced that sort of long, kind of long game thinking within a DJ set.
And that was at the same era where I was holding down residencies in New York, starting in '96. It went from Roxy for a few months, then to Twilo, almost 2 years, Tunnel almost 2 years, and then Vinyl for 5 years until 2004. And it was mostly all of the '90s and up until 2002 that I was heavily in the studio. So the nightclubs and especially the residencies was my testing ground for a lot of the, tracks I was working on, remixing or producing. And so I'm sure that I probably was really happy with the way Flash was going, but there's quite possible that it wasn't complete yet, and I was playing it in some of its raw demo stages.
Maybe there were some other little things you were playing with, because I feel like it was, it might have been the bells, but I feel like there was other Green Velvet stuff in there. Like it was almost like a Green Velvet remix medley or something. But I could have made it all up.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I would possibly sound a lot more like that lately from the way it was Tractor, multi-track, 7 decks are going, all synced. But back at Industry, I was still playing vinyl, maybe some CD too, but I know it was vinyl. So I can't take credit and say I was doing too much that was, fancy.
Probably, there were some CDs in there.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the couple other things I remember from that era specifically, and like things that, that DJ booth was like, it was pitch black. Like there was, and
hot.
and no idea what was going on in there. Like, and again, this was at a time where it was starting to be DJs on stage. People kind of want to see them. And then the third thing was that I've never really seen another DJ do this. You would get on not only would you get on the mic and talk to the crowd, and you had it was, I don't know what you call it, like a little LED board that you could type messages to the crowd, like scrolling messages, 6 hours in, how much longer will we go? Question mark. I mean, where did that stuff come from? Because that seems, and you don't really still do that. I don't.
No, I haven't used that in a while. I think there's 2 ways I could describe this. One of them is that I've been working in nightclubs almost 40 years now. It's scary to think that, but I really started as a young teenager in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And around 1980 is when I got a job working at a roller disco, which was quite famous in that era. And I did that for 3 years. So the part of that roller disco part was that I had to get on the microphone and announce what was to come next, whether it be couples or speed skating or take off your shoes and dance, take off your skates and dance, 15-minute, whatever it might be. They had themes. And then sometimes I worked in clubs where they used to have performances back in the day. It could be, Taylor Dane's going to come and sing her hit. I'm just thought of her name, thinking of conference. And I was the DJ, and that's usually who was the guy that was on the microphone. But it was the connection now with the Winter Music Conference that I was doing a really high-profile night for quite a while. And
those parties were huge,
right?
Yeah.
And I was a host of this event, and there was nobody else to, not like I'm an MC getting the crowd to raise their hands and
Right.
It was
And
just
I
like-
think I was going to wait for you to finish to point that out. This isn't.
Right.
It's not like DJs, kind of like the EDM DJs. Now we're up there saying okay, on the count of three, we're all going to raise our hands. It was more just like
welcome to Be Yourself, Winter Music 2001, something like that. But
I was there.
and then people, because it would be often when I went on that I would say, hey, what's up, everybody? We're back another year. And then I always give respect to the DJ before me, because I feel like most people would not even think to turn around and who know the difference that they switched over.
Yeah.
And I was all about giving credit.
Yeah, and I remember it felt very comfortable and welcoming. Like it didn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't a hype thing. It was,
Right.
it was playful in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like I said, like the messages you would put in the machine, you would maybe say, name the track, and then be like remix by question mark.
Right. And that's what was part of the fun too, is that the room was full of so many industry people, and the diversity of UK and New York and deep, progressive, soulful. I'm talking like Masters at Work, Paul Oakenfold. It was everybody. And instead of getting on the microphone, because people would give me their promos left and right, instead of like announcing every song I was going to play, I wasn't going to do that. I got the scrolling thing, and I would type in the titles, because you're playing records that people are hearing for the first time, and it's the blood. They want to know what it is.
Yeah.
So only during the Winter Music Conference I would be like, Deep Dish, Truce and Sabalos.
Yeah, I remember I rolled into that Be Yourself 2001 with Richie Houghton, about 12, our 12 deep crew.
Yeah.
And just posted up in one corner by some speakers, and we're just like, this is where we're at tonight.
Yeah, and there's a little discomfort that came off of that, is that some people had the impression then that I was always on the microphone.
Right.
It's that almost like that lost in translation factor. Maybe they go.
Yeah,
back.
you do it. You spend a total of 60 seconds on the microphone, spread out over 16 hours.
Right.
But people say like, oh yeah, he was talking on the microphone, and
Yeah. And like even today would be a good example to say, especially if it was a residency where everybody knows me, we're all there for the same reason, I would probably stop the music and have like a moment of silence for 911. Because it's September 11th
today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I would say, okay, let's get back to the reason why we're here, to forget our problems and get back to the music. That. But just to show people that I'm more than just a DJ. Like I care, I'm human, I have emotions, and I think I'm just this.
Right. And you announced that they were serving breakfast on the patio.
I paid for it. I almost forgot you were there. Yeah. But that's the conference. That's when it used to be really special for me. And this coming year, March of 2016, don't laugh, is going to be my 30th year participating.
Wow.
I go back in 1985. I moved to Florida in October, and I had missed the first one. But then I participated. I met Bill Kelly, the owner, and then I worked a residency there at Cheers, and we would do showcases. We had Joyce Sims and Company B, and whoever was hot at the moment, Hanson and Davis, Niobe. After the show, right back to the DJ.
Right.
And we had the only late license in town. So people came from all over, and after the show, people are drinking now, schmoozing. It was a good time back then. It's a different ball game now.
Yeah, I'll admit I haven't been to Winter Music Conference for a few years.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what's going on. I did remember the last time I went was probably in maybe we'll say 2009.
Right.
And I ended up sharing a taxi from the airport to South Beach with like two college girls who, whatever, conversation, hey, you want to split a cab? Cool. Who were in town for Ultra. And they had no idea what Winter Music Conference was. They were like, they were just like, we're here for Ultra. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm here for the conference. Like, what conference? Like, they had no clue. And this would have been, this was even before it got, it's probably twice as big now as it was then.
Well, that could just go the same as like, to think of how many years I go back and being a high profile DJ, written about magazines and, maybe Winter Music Conference Award, whatever it would be. You could ask those girls, "Oh, you're gonna go check out Danny?" They'd be like, "Danny?" They wouldn't know who I was. You know what I mean? Because I'm not ultra main stage kind of DJ. But I totally get that.
Are you ultra any stage DJ? I mean, do you do those kind of?
I did. I was a guest of Carl's.
Carl
2 or 3
Cox.
times. Yeah, Carl
Okay,
Cox. I was a guest of. He's a good friend. 2 or 3 times I played with him. But years ago, we actually even attempted to do my own stage. They gave me like a be yourself tent.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't go so well for me because I didn't. I was a small guy. Wasn't Carl with his tent. I don't know if Carl had his tent back then. This is a while ago. And so I got the low end of the sound, and everything else is coming from elsewhere. And
just didn't.
Yeah, I didn't show excitement to even say, have me back next year.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think my name even carried that much weight. It was just that rest in peace, Alex Ohms, but the guys from Ultra, they had respect for what I was doing for many years in Miami, and I guess we thought maybe it could work. But
I think that happens a lot. I think with a lot of the guys, even the guys who are cashing in now,
right?
They have respect. They have respect, but it's like, how do you, and is it even your job to try to teach, 120,000, 21-year-olds about music that's 40 years old at this point? It's
true.
I think it seems like a challenge. Right. But some guys have, sometimes guys have done really well. Carl is a great example with his,
brand.
His kind of brand, his big stages. So where do you feel comfortable now? Like, I mean, we talked about Miami, obviously. I'm sorry, Toronto.
Yeah.
And Montreal, the places you have there.
Well, I can tell you, this could shift the conversation into a direction that's, different than what you might expect I'm going to say, but I would be much more comfortable if that situation arisen now at Ultra because of my usage of Tractor.
Okay.
It made me a whole different DJ in a confident kind of way, because back then when you're playing records, even CDs could be, and the monitoring and things is just not something you're comfortable with, there's often a great struggle to mix. You're like, what, are you kidding me? I know how to mix. You just like, but because of the way there are delays, and you might be hearing the sound system, and they're not properly in tune with the monitors.
Right.
So you're struggling to find that beat, or the stage could be vibrating so much that it's just telling your body a different story. And I really struggled with that a few times. I was like, I don't want to do this no more, meaning the festivals. Excuse me. So about 3 years ago, I started working with Tractor. And I think it revived my excitement to be a DJ. Because I was saying, in 2011, when I lost the computer, I was going through it, like, what am I doing? Like, there's all these new guys coming through and they're making a fortune, but I don't want to play that kind of music. There's no more residencies. Like, I was just really in that, where is this all going? And I really got to say that Tractor pulled me out of that, because I spent many years in studios making records or producing records, but I'm obviously better as a DJ. My first passion, as far as like entertainment, I do better at playing records than making them, is what I'm trying to say. But I brought that experience I have of being a producer into my DJ sets by utilizing Tractor as a producer and not just some DJ that hits play next. I really get very involved.
Yeah, it seemed at the time, and this is just from my listening to you, that it shifted your sound a little as well. It seemed to go in a bit more of like a techno, fewer vocals, maybe a little faster.
Well, I mean, if you look at the statistics of 10 years ago to now, the music has changed so much. There really isn't that many vocals like there used to be.
True.
And the ones that do come out to the vocals are more like on a deeper house tip that is not main stage or main room material. So when I'm like somewhat of a main headlining DJ, I can't go in and play those soft. It's the techno records that elevate the party.
Yeah.
And get me called back to come back and do it again because the people saw the responses. But I actually enjoy it too, and that's also a part of why I love playing long sets, because then people can realize I'm not just about techno. I could take you on the journey of tribal and ethnic and down tempo as well. Yeah. Then I could always end the party like, in a wonderful classic style by playing some vocals and novelty type tracks that you could not play in a 2, 3, 4 hour set.
Yeah, I'm really waiting for the tribal revival. Like I feel like it's way overdue. And it's like, where is that? Like just a stomping. Drums with the vocals, with all that stuff. It's like it feels like that is really missing right now. Like
I think what's missing the most is when a DJ has the residency where you can understand each week, like you get more and more understanding of what that DJ is about. It's like listening to Dark Side of the Moon, and then like a month later, 2 months later, 2 years later, you really get it.
Right.
And the DJs are able to break a song and play it again because maybe they were talking, maybe on the dance floor half a song, but then the following week they were like, oh, he played this last week. We don't get to do that no more. So I could play great drum tribal tracks and put acapellas over them, but tonight would be a good example to say if I did that tonight, I'm going to only satisfy a portion of the people.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be the main ones that are the new generation.
Yeah.
They're going to expect me to do like, the fills, the build-ups, and hands in the air, the bass goes out, the kick comes back, and they put the hands in the air.
And again, but you're doing, and we should again be clear, like you're doing this within the the construct of like, austere techno, not, not big EDM.
Oh yeah, to me the techno stuff, I was bringing to my friend Guillermo's attention. Well, actually, we were having a laugh in the car because he was listening to a CD that I made, my album Tourism, and there's a track on there that's somewhat minimalish. Read My Lips, and I haven't listened in ages. And I'm driving this car and I'm going, I forgot about this one. And I was telling him how long ago it was. Like it's almost 18 years. 16 years? But 16 years ago, that was like a really new style to be playing, especially in America, minimal. And I was telling him how I used to get sort of like yelled at for playing stuff like that at Twilo by the owner, Phil. He was like, you're chasing the people away, they're going to Roxy, they're going here. Actually, we'd yell at my manager, tell him go up and tell me these things. But I wouldn't give in. But as far as techno goes, back as far as 20 years, I could think back to those Groove Jet parties when I was doing Soulful Deep, Michael Watford, Mood to Swing, whatever. I was also displaying my passion for the changes and the stuff that was a little more abrasive and harder. And I learned that from going through tons of records at the record store, but pitching them down. I would listen to records that were like 144, play them at -8, and still go, if I'm able to get it down that much more, this is going to be great. So I would buy the record, double packs, all that kind of stuff, burn it to CD, and then play it slower in the CD deck. And it really, really worked for me. I mean, it was a lot of stuff that I've done over the years as a DJ has been a gamble. It's like persevere, and if it doesn't work, eventually I'll just do something else. But finally, towards the latter end of my career, people caught on to how I was doing techno because eventually it started to come down in tempo. And I've had conversations with many guys. I mean, I'm friends with just about everybody. And I remember bonding with Chris Liebing, and he used to make, he was techno hero, and we always talk about how fast the records were. Say maximum 144, maybe 146, but at 140 to 144.
Yeah, in fact, I think it was even there was a CD compilation. It goes like speed limit 140 or But you can't fathom going to a club and listening to 140 BPM today.
He was hanging out at my loft, and he went through records of mine, and he was showing me records that he did that I didn't even know he did. And then we would kind of like have a laugh at it because we put it on. It was so fast. And, I would show him how I would play it back then and then burn it. I told him the concept. And he was like, why couldn't you call me back then? He goes, because some of these records, I question it now. Like, what was I thinking at 144?
Yeah, I've had this idea for a long time, and I'll probably never get around to it. But I was like, I just want to take all my old, at this point, all my old mixtapes have been digitized.
Yeah.
But I got to go through and I got to pitch them all down. Or not pitch them down, but slow the tempo down.
Yeah.
And then I want to make a website called -6. There's just so many great things. Like I was trying to listen to Jeff Mills live at the Liquid Room not that long ago.
Right.
And my girl was like, "The fuck are you listening to?" It's so fast.
Yeah, and I, as I started to become an avid fan of the techno, then when a DJ would come to town, I would go hear them. I couldn't appreciate it. I couldn't deal with the tempo.
Yeah.
Because my roots are funky and soulful, and I did the deep house garage thing for many years, meaning Paradise Garage and Loft, and that was my first love. And I gotta say, even back then, a record could have been 120. Even back then, we would pitch it down instead of forward, the deep house guys, to make it that much more funkier.
Yeah, it gives it a little wobble when you pitch it down.
But a lot of newer DJs or guys that have only done it, a couple of years, you would even see this in the record stores when they have those listening stations. When you get those guys that put the headphones on and they're like messing with it. They were like raising the tempo, always going up, and they're putting the finger like practicing DJing. I'm like, why are they making it faster?
I don't know. They don't still have those, I don't think.
No,
maybe
in Berlin.
I was gonna say, Berlin still has a few stores that are like that.
But so it was. That's what the direction is I just got into with techno, and for me, I love it. I love the patterns and the sounds, and there's just been so many brilliant records that were made that didn't have life then but have life now, and that's part of the reason why I'm loving using Tractor, because a lot of them may not work in a sync kind of format. So I take many of these records, whether they're techno or soulful, and I put them into a studio session first, work with an engineer, Sebastian, and we warp them so that they will fit and lock. Once it's locked, it's saved, then you can pretty much work with anything. And that's what amazes me, is like sometimes I'll be playing something that's a classic, let's say Jeff Mills record, 120, and then put on something abstract, tribal or whatever, and I can't believe what's coming back, and just catch a loop. And basically what I'm doing is something you could have never ever done with records,
right?
And somewhat with CDs, because you can loop CDJs and Denons, but with Tractor you're capable of doing so much more, because you have it all within the context of one screen, and you can see it all. It's all visual as well. When you have 4 CD decks, you're like looking in those little screens and rubbernecking. You don't want to move away from the mixer. So Tractor is...
Do you find it hard to concentrate, though? I find that I think a lot of DJs, especially DJs maybe that came up using just their ears. I feel like when when the digital DJing started to come out, you start to see DJs. It was almost like they stopped listening and it was like they were playing a video game. It's like make the lines line up. Gotta get the line. Make the lines line up. Make the lines line up.
Yeah.
Do you think it's being able to watch the music has altered how you hear the music? And can you divide your attention like that?
I would say that it's definitely probably different for me than the people on the dance floor. And the flip side of that too is that people are now watching you instead of just dancing and listening to what's coming out of the speakers. So depending on the room, like stereo is a great example. as well as output, because you have a great distance, and both crowds are not really so much about staring at you in like that EDM kind of way. And neither club is with people with cameras,
Right.
so they're not like distracting you with photos. So if my face is in the computer for a while, nobody's really bothered because they know that I'm working, and it's all about, the satisfaction of what's coming out of the speakers. And I'm not just like looking for another record. I'm really trying to make things work and using the mixer as a console.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to not find myself getting too lost into it like what people used to use the expression, he looks like he's checking his email in the booth.
Right.
I don't never want to use a laptop. And, I guess I was there for a while saying, oh, I'll never switch from records to CDs. And then I went from CDs to the flash drives, and now I can't imagine.
Yeah, it almost feels like It almost feels like laptops are becoming less common with the newer CDJs and the thumb drives. You can do a lot more with those.
Yeah.
And, the screens are getting bigger.
Oh, right. I know the new CDJs don't even have disk drive for CDs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you messed with those at all? I mean, is that
No.
something you're?
No. God, 3 years now I've been tractor head, and anybody that tells me, I don't know if you've seen the latest post on Facebook, I mentioned something about it. I said, Danny, we love you, but why tractor? Like, as a kid in Mexico City, I said, Arlene, or whatever his name is, I said, I promise you give me 15 minutes with you and let me show you tractor and how I use it. I could convert you.
Mm-hmm.
And we had it like a humorous
exchange.
conversation. Yeah, okay, it's a deal, like kind of stuff. But for the most part, it was a good responses.
Mm-hmm.
But I do understand people that are still passionate about turntables and records, because it's just that I've done that for like 30-something years before I switched to tractor. I still have all my records, but that physical part of it, it's a whole different ballgame. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different way of working. So there's a part of me that misses it, but there's a part of me that doesn't, because I still have the loft. I have a great sound system, and if I want to play those records, but I'm not into going to the record stores and buying the latest records and 12 inches and getting things on vinyl. So that actually is another reason why somebody said, oh, Danny's going to do a vinyl set. I'm like, well, what am I going to play? I haven't bought a record in a couple of years. I have digital downloads if I was living, I got to say, if I was living in Berlin, it might be a different story. Or I would still buy a lot of records, as I did when I visited there to play Berkheim twice. I went to the record shops, and I came home with stacks of records. But what I wound up doing was burning them.
Yeah.
And then playing them from the computer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, completely. And now there's stuff that's like only coming out on vinyl.
Right.
So you got to kind of,
Yeah.
chase that around, and it's
Yeah. I don't know.
the cat and mouse game continues.
I feel like I played that game of getting that promo that nobody else has, and and the record pulls and getting it from the label before it gets out to the record stores. I've been there, done that, and I admire the ones that have that passion, because I've lived it. I've traveled the globe with record cases. So
A lot of record cases, because you were playing long sets.
oh yeah. And then, let's say I went to England with 3 record crates. Sometimes I come back with 4, because you go around to the record labels, you go to the record stores, you go to Blackmart, you go here, you come home with another stack of records.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
So I want to ask. I want to talk about your loft a little bit, because I remember seeing something. This is in the past year, maybe 2 years, where you were going to rent it out, like letting people use it as a studio space, or what was that? What was that?
Actually, that still is the goal and the desire I have for that place. The reason why that got put on hold was at the beginning. I put that post up pretty much the beginning of this year.
Okay.
But the twist that put it on hold was that I wound up purchasing the sound system that was formerly at District 36.
Okay.
And it was built by Gary Stewart, who passed away, rest in peace. And he's done some great sound systems in the world, Zook and Vertigo in Costa Rica, and many, many places.
And you had a serious sound system in there prior,
Right?
Where was that was the sound system from somewhere
That's
too,
the one
right?
I was offering, for people to use besides the studio.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying you could record your sets on this massive. This was a sound system that was at vinyl,
Right.
and it originally was from Timmy Regisford's Shelter.
Mm-hmm.
Then it became vinyl, and it was Body and Soul. We all used the same system.
Mm-hmm.
But then when ARC took over, they brought in a phase-on system, and they offered me to buy the vinyl system.
Right.
And that was right. We were talking about September 11th. Here it is. Right after that happened was when they offered me the sound system, and I had just finished turning 40, and so those towers go down, and I was like, "Where's this going?" Like I got kind of scared and thinking like, "I'm gonna do it because you never know. I want this sound system. Now we gotta find the place to put it." So we got the place in Long Island City, and it's been 11 years now. So yeah, it all happened like really quick. So I was saying, "Oh, the district system is for sale. Do you want to buy it?" And I was like, "There's no way I could afford that because I know it cost them a lot of money to put it in." But they offered it to me in a way where it was mostly just the boxes and some of the speakers, but I didn't get the amps. I didn't get the DJ consoles, the monitors. So I just basically got.
Yeah, because I was like, how many club systems do you have? Just
Now I have 2
at home.
Yeah, it's so far I only got two stacks on. The other ones will be on when the speakers arrive, being repaired. So that put that on hold, and as well, my recording studio, I didn't think had enough of a professional appeal. There was it was a large room, about the size of where we are, but there was a step in there. Not that that would have made too much of a difference, but after many years, I decided to rip up the carpet, level the room, and put down nice wooden floor.
So we're gonna make it a little more like proper, like what you would rent out from.
I got
wherever.
the panels on the walls for acoustics. So, yeah, I wanted to make it more professional environment of recording, and then there would be package deals, like if you want to rent the studio to program, record your tracks, then you also have use of the sound system to hear what they sound like, or you can just rent that area to mix or hear what it sounds like, what it feels like to work in a club with a massive sound system, or record your SoundCloud sets, record your Mixclouds, and just hear your favorite records
on that
3 o'clock
system.
in the morning. Like I got no neighbors.
Okay, so you can go, and you don't live in that loft then, I'm guessing.
No, I crashed there many times, but
it's not yours.
No.
So you're not. It's because I think I wasn't sure about that. Like, is he like just gonna let kids record their set?
No.
Like,
That's the thing,
never
though.
sleep
I'm
again.
glad you're asking me that, because none of this would go unmonitored. Like, there would be studio manager. I would want to make sure that the people know that if I'm in town, they want to meet me, that would be cool too. But for the most part, I don't want to be there. I want people to feel comfortable and not like, oh, Danny might be listening to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I get nervous in front of DJs, so I'm sure somebody might be nervous in front of me too. So, but I'm also not interested in renting it to just anyone. I want to meet the people. You may know them even if it's through Facebook or a friend.
Right.
Let's say you know somebody. It has to be like a word of mouth. Like,
sure.
You could say, this guy's going to be good. And there's going to be a limitation on how many people can be at the session, because it's not a party.
Yeah.
It looks like a nightclub at times. You shut the lights and put on some of the dance lights that we have. But I would say it's absolutely not a party space. There'll be no liquor, no dancing, just pure enjoyment of the sound and the environment. Practice. It's...
And it does make a difference, like if you've never played on a big system like that.
Oh no, this is really as serious as it gets, because it's perfectly 4-point system, and the console set up in the center under the ball, so you're getting it from every angle. So you're basically on the dance floor.
So how many hours a week do you spend on the dance floor?
Not as much as I used to. I got to say, I've been fanatical all my life, and I still am, but I guess I need some water.
Sure.
Excuse me. Yeah, excuse me. Since it's become more and more and more about the computer. People sending me promos and demos through Dropbox. I find myself sitting down, and it could be anywhere. Like when we finish this interview, I'll be going through music here. So it's not so much time spent under the ball. I might be at that desk, but I might not have the sound system on. Mm-hmm. It's just too overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what my thinking is. Like if you're already in a club, 1 or 2 nights a week, and then.
But now that we're putting up a new system, I know I'm going to be back into
Drawn
it
back
for a while. Oh, I want to hear this on that sound system. Oh, I want to hear that track on the system, because it is much more powerful. There's a lot more punch. I mean, you never been to District 36?
I haven't. No, I'll be honest with you. I haven't heard of it. Which?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It didn't last long. It was on 36th Street between 6th and 5th.
Okay.
And then it just was like the internal people, owners not getting along, and just...
Yeah.
And then it became...
And it was in Manhattan, which is...
Yeah. And for a minute there... It was also when parties were starting to spread out differently, meaning like to Brooklyn, becoming smaller, warehouses, Output had opened, and that was doing really well.
Yeah.
So...
And you still do your Output quite frequently.
Yeah. I'm pretty much loyal to them now. I wouldn't say I'm signed to them as a resident exclusive, but it pretty much feels that way. Yeah.
Would you do that if they offered? Would you take on a weekly residency again?
No. Because then it wouldn't be a special event anymore. I mean, I think in some ways it would be that I'd probably be the only DJ that's doing that. Every week in New York you could hear me or not, but to know that I'm there every Friday or Saturday. But it's not affordable for me to do that because I need to make more of a living to afford the loft rent and my home in Miami. So.
And you can make more traveling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I did every week at Output, I'd probably make a lot less because again, it wouldn't be the same numbers. Mm-hmm. I don't think.
Oh, like you don't think you can get people to come every fill the place up every week.
Let's say if I do it every other month, I don't know what the cover is at the door, 20, 60, who knows. But I think if I did every week, it couldn't be a high figure.
I think it's somewhere between 20 and 60.
Yeah.
I think it's probably right.
Yeah, it depends on the hour.
I'm one of those people are like, how much do clubs cost? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. I know Berghain costs $14 or 14 euros still for 36 hours of entertainment if you want it. But
but I would love to. I would love to bring that back again because that's what I was saying. What was missing? Why people, everybody goes to a club, including myself. I might not know one song the DJ's playing. I may like it. I may not. But I say, I don't know one song this guy's playing, and I'm a DJ. And pretty much it happens wherever you go these days. Mm-hmm. So there's no consistency, and everybody wants to have their own unique sound and records that maybe the other guy doesn't have before or after him or the next night. So I think that's missing in a club is the consistency of a party, a theme, a sound, a DJ, a movement. But I don't know. Maybe
which is fine. It's a fine line because you also hear some people playing like, oh, everyone just plays the hits now. Mm-hmm. So it's.
Well, it also depends on the hours. I would still need a good minimum 8 hours. I want to say 6 to 8 hours, but 8 hours would be ideal. Like a 9 to 5, just 9 p.m. to 5 a.m.
I would prefer 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Yes.
Quite frankly, nowadays it's like, I
hear you.
That's not to keep bringing up Berlin, but it's like, like get a full night's sleep, then go to a club. Don't try to push yourself to stay out all night. Like that's where it gets exhausting. Yeah,
that was pretty much the attitude back.
Vinyl was like that too, wasn't it?
Vinyl and even the Paradise Garage. I remember going to bed, getting up at 4 a.m., showing up at 5, and it would go till like 11 a.m. The garage never really stayed open all day, but that was enough.
Yeah.
That was your peak. And then it became like that, actually, to a really obnoxious, movement with Tunnel, Twilo, Crowbar, Palladium Arena, going all day to the evening, which I'm not putting it down. I think I'm very envious of Berghain and how they do it. But New York, the people were to extremes of partying.
That's the part. People don't go home.
Right.
People go out Saturday night and stay out till Sunday night.
It was too much becoming about ketamine and crystal and GHB and emergencies, ambulances, and the hospitals got sick of it. The associations with the community boards were like, this got to stop because legitimate people are coming in ambulances with heart attacks or strokes, and you're coming in again because you did too much GHB. So that really was one of the very important reasons of what hurt New York nightlife. A lot of people don't know that though.
So you think you think there is some responsibility to be taken by the clubbers and the scene, and it's not all just Giuliani's a prick and he sold the state of Disney and so the club's closed.
Exactly. I don't think that people really realize that the statistics between here, like you go to Ibiza, look how many thousands of people are there every week. Amnesia holds like 7,000 people, and how many people go to space in 1 week between Carl, Richie, this, that.
Yeah, that's 8,000 people, I think, per
and
night.
you don't hear of overdoses, and especially ones that die. You might hear of people needing, oxygen, or like take them outside, or maybe even take them to a hospital. But you don't hear of these deaths, and people needing to be airlifted. And
I'm not convinced, though, that that's not happening. I'm just not. I think Europeans just understand, like, it's not news if one person did too much of something. Like, it's.
I think I'm talking about the drugs in particular.
Sure.
I think that people in New York in that period just were doing too much combined. Like, they weren't satisfied with just ecstasy and, okay, we're going to do bump of K too. But then it became this, that, and you can't drink with this.
I see what people do in Ibiza, and I'm just like...
Yeah.
It's...
Oh, I know. It does get messy there too, but I'm just going by having lived all my life in New York and being the DJ at these residencies and hearing the stories.
Well, it's been a consistent problem here in LA with not really with the clubs, with the festival. Well, not just LA, but all over America with the festivals. It's like you can't have a festival without two people dying. But then it's like, how much is it? I don't think that happens at Time Warp in Germany or this festival or that festival. But
that's what I'm saying is like I've traveled the world, so many countries and been back and back, many returns to the same places. And, along the way, guys like us will talk about what may have happened that week. And I hardly ever hear stories about someone overdosing, dying, or a club got closed because somebody got shot. There's the other side of it. There's the violence factor on some of the venues because of hip hop.
I ran a techno club in Detroit that had both. We had one ecstasy death, New Year's Eve 2001, and we had a gun homicide outside of the club.
Right.
2002. So, but we're Detroit. Yeah. We're special like that.
But yeah, I just, I think what I'm trying to say is that, I just want to shake these people and say, what do you want to feel? Why do you need to do so much? It's such extreme that you're not even aware you're experiencing something that's outside of your body. Like, I don't know. Maybe I need to try it.
So you're not really a drug guy from what I know.
I never tried ketamine. I never tried crystal. I never tried heroin. I have the story of, I tell people I went to Ibiza in 2001. I had turned 40, and I tried ecstasy, and I had a blast.
You were with some of my friends. I heard about that.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I had the best time, and a couple of times after that as well. But it was short-lived because I had always lived with fear, of like whether it be family or the Catholic side of me, just like just knowing, being raised in the 60s and 70s in New York, how many people were dying of overdoses from heroin. So my family was very concerned. Uncles, brothers were all like watching over each other. And when I was younger, my roller disco days, I smoked pot. That used to be what I did. I smoked pot, cigarettes, but I gave that up in '84. And drink here and there, but never was much of a drinker. And probably tried coke a couple of times back in those disco days, but just didn't grab me.
Yeah.
And people,
Lucky.
So speaking of some of these other designer drugs, when I said, tell some people that are party people that I've never tried ketamine, they're like, don't do it, you'll love it.
Yeah. You'll be hard pressed to find someone in 2015 who's going to tell you, oh, ketamine's great,
Yeah. The funny thing is that what I got to add is say, when I did try ecstasy, having a great time, I imagined many times, how do DJs do this? How could they play on this? Because I wasn't working. I was out dancing. Yeah. And I just couldn't imagine trying to focus.
I've seen plenty of DJs, some well-known DJs like, he's gonna take a break for a while. We're gonna put someone else on. I've definitely,
Yeah.
But also, I've seen guys they're like they can't read, like back in the vinyl, the playing vinyl days. I've seen guys who are like I can't read what's on the records right now, so you're gonna have to pick out the records, but then I can mix them. Like I've seen that.
Man. That's genius. Because that's what I was gonna say. I remember going in a booth once, somebody was playing. I knew the DJ, and I was like feeling it, and I was going, "How do you do this?" Like I'm looking at the lights, and they're looking like fuzzy. And I had, somewhat perfect vision. I'm like, I don't know how you do this. And then I'm trying to imagine people that do ecstasy, coke, shots of tequila, marijuana. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So, and now I'm 54. There's no way. There's no way that's going to start. And the reason why I said it was short-lived, which was probably a good thing, is that I remember like maybe 2002, or it's Ibiza season again. Maybe you want to try it again, go out again. But then that was quickly when people started recognizing me.
Yeah.
And that totally changed it. Like, Danny? And I just...
Yeah, you don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, no, it was uncomfortable.
So
It became completely uncomfortable. I wound up leaving and just being in my hotel room looking at myself in the mirror going, fool, like... So that I didn't venture with that for too long. And that's pretty much the way it is now. Even without drugs, I go out. It's hard for me to stay out because I'm very well recognized now in nightclubs. I could go anywhere else, but it's a shame that it's my passion, my livelihood. I go to a nightclub and I don't want to be in the booth. I may say hello, but I don't want to be standing there because now everybody's facing the DJ, so they might see me. And I think it's uncomfortable for me to stand in a booth. I'd want to be on the dance floor anyway, but it's just impossible.
Well, I'll be honest with you, one of the things I'm really looking forward to tonight, coming to see you at Sound, is I just moved back to LA. I don't have any friends here. Like my girl might come with me, or she might not. She's not like a clubber.
Yeah.
So it's a good chance I'm showing up by myself, and I'll spend 3 hours on the dance floor, and I'm good. Like I'm loving that now.
Yeah.
Because it does get to the point where you just so many people that you're just like, you forget to go enjoy it because you're too busy chatting.
And I would think that tonight would be a good example of me not being able to tell a full journey.
Yeah,
because it's there's that younger appeal, and it's different than output and stereo and some of the places where you can. Like, we'll do an experiment tonight with some of the tribal stuff.
All right.
And you'll know when you hear him say he's really, going to Africa right now.
We'll see.
No, I mean, because some people might think they're playing tribal, but they're just playing looped type beats. But when you could get more ethnic about it too.
Well, yeah, there's a certain like guerrilla thump to
Yeah.
it that I never hear that anymore anywhere.
Yeah.
Like it's not just I'll listen to like there's a couple of things
Right.
things from you floating around. Like I'll listen to like Junior Vasquez recording from the late '90s or whatever. It's like it's just, that stuff's nowhere. Like you just don't hear anything even I can equate to it anymore.
Yeah. Well, even that, to me, that's more of a New York tribal thing.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I could give you that too, but there's like, because drums could represent, Afro-Cuban, Haitian type stuff,
Sure.
where it's really, really authentic sounds that were sampled, looped, put back through. A lot of the New York hard house tribal stuff was mostly like dum 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 toms over the kick
I guess
drum.
that's what I'm talking about. That
Yeah.
was that was the stuff that I like when I first heard you. I was like, I had
Yeah.
never heard that, and I just
Yeah.
like I have such an affinity for it.
Okay.
Probably because I'd never heard it since. Like
Yeah.
heard it a couple times. And you were in this like kind of weird middle ground, like 2000 2001, like the Global Underground CDs were like it had that, but it was evolving out of that.
Right. That I think it took me many years to really fully be understood because I loved soul, I loved the progressive, I loved tribal, I loved vocal, I loved techno, I loved minimal, and it was like I probably would be more successful if I just loved one style.
Yeah.
But I have what I call multiple DJ disorder. Down tempo, But I think once I started branching out, I think Ibiza helped me a lot too, because I've been playing there since 2000. This is the 15th year I've gone. And that, like the Winter Music Conference is changing, for me, because I don't have a record label, I don't have a brand,
Right.
I don't follow, routine.
Yeah. Where do you play when you play in Ibiza?
It's mostly been at Space,
Okay.
but I've done all the clubs, did Pasha many times.
Did you do it like? Is it for Carl's night or what parties do you play?
I did a lot for Carl. I did a lot for We Love Sundays, which is
right.
moved now to Sankey's. I did my own night every Thursday was Be at Space in 2008,
Okay, right.
and it was very successful. But I couldn't follow up the following year because it was too much for me. Because that was the year my mom passed. I was just in an emotional way that I couldn't hide it much longer. I was like, I can't do this every week, Yeah, so I didn't go back. But everything happens for a reason, right?
Right.
Yeah. And honestly, what I'll tell you about that, I always loved playing the Space Terrace. And by the third, fourth week, there was like 5,000-6,000 people there. And they tell me you can't play the terrace because too many people.
And too many people in that
really,
space.
Really bothered me.
Yeah, because that big room doesn't have
Exactly. I didn't love it. I liked it, but I loved the terrace.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I was like, I want to say it was apples and oranges like Panorama Bar and Bakine, but to some degree.
Yeah, it
the
just
terrace
and
always
I-
had its own mystique.
Yeah, and I didn't go to Space until 3 years ago, so I never saw the terrace,
Old one.
the open air, whatever. Like I only know the room as it is now, and I could still tell. Like, there's this is the cool room. You can just
Yeah.
tell. There's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
there's some rooms just have that. You can just tell.
Two
Like,
different
this is the cool
nightclubs
room.
under one
Yeah.
roof. Yeah. So that was another reason why I didn't want to go back, because it was somewhat of a spectacle, and they had dancers that would come out, like posers, like that. It was just too much.
Yeah.
Stuff on stage and.
Yeah, I know what DJs are starting to complain about that
burlesque.
now. Carl just said something about like he's sick of the bottle service in Ibiza, and I know like when Rich, like when they put out the promo for Enter this year, they're like, no, there's not gonna be dancers or something. Because that was like kind of a a friction point where they were like, is there a way to do it so you have the mandatory Ibiza dancers, but it's not in that tacky way.
Yeah, and they go through the town holding the.
There's that whole
poles
thing,
and
yeah.
The parade of promotions, people on stilts.
And it's where's the line, because you would do drag shows in the middle of a party in Miami, like
I wouldn't.
I think you did.
Not me in drag.
No.
I mean, don't put it past me, but I haven't yet.
I'm just mean, why is it, and we'll probably end on this, but why is it that if in the middle of a 16-hour set at Space in Miami in 2001, you can basically stop the music, now it's time for the show, and there's like a drag thing,
Yeah.
and that feels right, but the girls on stilts doing the acrobatics or whatever feels not right.
Well,
this isn't just for you. This is kind of like our our kind of collective aesthetic for this community.
Well, that particular thing happened once. It was called the Crash Follies. There was a club in Astoria, Queens called Crash.
Okay.
And I knew the owner, and they invited me once down to see the show, and I was really impressed because it was very Broadway, the way it was choreographed, and we talked about, you think you could ever have them as guests in Miami? I thought about like, why not? Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like as abstract as me having Yoko Ono in the booth singing.
Yeah. Was that also the same year, or was that the following year? That was the following year. Okay.
So it's the element of surprise.
Right.
It's entertainment.
Oh, we were surprised. We were confused. we had been kind of posted up on what we thought were just like kind of platforms for people to hang out on. Yeah. But that turned into the runway. It's like literally furniture got moved, purses got lost. It was really.
Yeah. And it made a good story though, because it really was entertainment. It wasn't just dancers. I think a lot of that with Space and some of the other clubs too is a culture of Spain where they have, even Italy, many places, they come out and they have their guys, the girls, trannies, whatever it might be, colorful, almost Vegas-y, the outfits, but they don't really do much. They're just present on the stage and no particular routines together. They're just all freestyle and modeling and
now we realize you're on video.
Something like that. And but Crash Follies was a show.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be drag queens, but it was a professional show. And I saw it was like, yeah, I got a kick out of it.
Okay.
But that only happened once, and I wasn't in the show. I was in the booth.
I'm glad I was there to see it.
Yeah, I remember doing a show with JoJo Americo, who did a cover version for me of Headhunter by Front 242. And that's when Party was still back at Groove Jet before Space.
Okay.
That was even much more intimate.
Yeah, that was, because Space was huge. That was a 6,000 person venue.
Not
Wasn't it?
No.
Because there was a whole other room where they were piping in your music.
Yeah, but we were even talking about the first Space, because they closed and opened the new Space, which is bigger. Yeah, no, it wasn't that big. It was big, maybe 2,000, 2,500 throughout the night.
It? But it felt bigger.
No,
but
it wasn't. For sure.
Everything seemed bigger back then. It's like when you go back to your old elementary school. You're like, why is the water fountain so low?
I was the first DJ ever at Space in Miami, and then a couple of years later, I closed it, so they opened up the new one.
Okay. Where
it still exists now, and I did the grand opening of that one, and then did the conference parties there after Groove Jet. But I stopped it 2003. I didn't like the directions things were going, so I played there a couple of times since. But yeah, I don't know. Miami's changed, Ibiza's changed, everything's changed, but music's changed, technology, but my passion is the same.
Great. Well, perfect place to leave it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any last question?
That's it for this episode of the Rave Curious Podcast. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more conversations with key players in the electronic music community. If you like what you heard on this podcast, let us know. You can give us a shout on Twitter at Rave Curious. You can also like us on Facebook, Rave Curious Podcast. And of course, subscribe on iTunes to make sure you never miss an episode. That's it. Thanks for listening.